There is a weakness almost every woman has. Not the kind she talks about, not the kind she admits, and not the kind most men ever notice. Because this weakness is not visible on the surface. It doesn't show up in words, it doesn't show up in behavior, it shows up in emotional response. And the moment you understand it, everything about attraction, power, and influence starts to make sense. Here's the truth most men are never told. Women are not weak in the way society portrays weakness. They are emotionally sophisticated, socially intuitive, highly perceptive. But that very sensitivity creates a hidden vulnerability. A vulnerability rooted in how their nervous system responds to emotional certainty versus emotional ambiguity. Most men think women want reassurance. They don't. They want emotional safety without emotional control. And this is where the weakness appears. Women struggle deeply with unresolved emotional tension. Not drama, not conflict, but tension that is calm, grounded, and unresolved. Tension without pressure. Most men either create chaos or create certainty. Both kill attraction. Chaos feels unsafe, certainty feels boring. The hidden weakness is this: women are powerfully drawn to men who can hold emotional tension without needing to resolve it, because unresolved tension activates imagination, and imagination is where desire lives. Most men destroy this tension instantly. They clarify, they explain, they define, they reassure. They turn mystery into information. And the moment everything is known, attraction collapses. Women don't lose interest because a man is bad. They lose interest because there is nothing left to feel. Another truth men don't want to hear is this: women are deeply uncomfortable when they cannot emotionally predict a man. Not unpredictability through inconsistency, but unpredictability through emotional independence. A man whose emotional state does not rise and fall with her behavior creates a subtle loss of control. And that loss of control is the weakness. Because when emotional control is lost, curiosity takes over. Curiosity is stronger than logic, stronger than standards, stronger than intention. This is why women often feel drawn to men they can't figure out. Not because those men are manipulative, but because they are not emotionally transparent. Transparency feels safe, but it kills desire. Depth without exposure creates pull. Another layer of this weakness is how women respond to emotional self-containment. Most men think being emotionally open early builds connection. It doesn't. It builds familiarity. And familiarity kills polarity. Women are drawn to men who feel emotionally whole without needing to be understood. This creates a psychological imbalance. She feels the urge to understand, to explore, to resolve, and that urge keeps her emotionally invested. Another uncomfortable truth is this: women are far more affected by how a man makes them feel internally than by how he treats them externally. You can treat a woman perfectly and still lose her interest, because kindness without tension feels flat. The hidden weakness is not that women want bad men, it's that women want men who don't collapse emotionally into the connection. Another point most men miss is how women react to emotional restraint. Restraint is not suppression, it is control without force. A man who can feel desire without acting on it immediately signals power. Power here is not dominance, it is self-regulation. Self-regulation creates safety, and safety allows desire to grow instead of burn out. Another truth that makes men uncomfortable is this: women often test men unconsciously to see where their emotional center is. They pull back, they delay, they change tone. Most men react. They seek reassurance, they chase clarity, they try to stabilize. And in doing so, they reveal dependency. Dependency eliminates mystery. And mystery is what keeps attraction alive. The man who triggers this hidden weakness does something different. He does not react emotionally. He observes. And observation without reaction creates tension. That tension activates imagination. Another deep layer is how women experience emotional authority. They are not attracted to men who try to control them. They are attracted to men who cannot be controlled emotionally. A man whose mood, confidence, and direction remain intact regardless of her behavior becomes a psychological anchor. Anchors create gravity. Gravity pulls. Another thing most men don't realize is that this weakness has nothing to do with manipulation. It has to do with emotional honesty without exposure. A man can be real without being needy. He can be present without being dependent. That balance is rare, and rarity activates desire. The hidden weakness is not insecurity. It is the discomfort women feel when emotional certainty is missing, but emotional safety remains. That combination is intoxicating because it forces her mind to stay engaged. Most men rush to remove discomfort. They smooth everything over. They resolve tension. They close loops too early. And once the loop is closed, the feeling ends. The men women think about are the ones who leave loops open, not through games, but through grounded presence. This is why attraction often feels irrational, because it is not responding to logic. It is responding to emotional dynamics beneath awareness. This is the hidden flaw, not something to exploit, something to understand. Because once you understand it, you stop trying to convince women. You stop trying to impress. You stop trying to secure outcomes, and you start doing the one thing that keeps attraction alive. You let emotional tension exist without fear. And when you do that, something changes, not in her behavior immediately, but in her mind. And once her mind is engaged, everything else follows, quietly, naturally, without force. This is the foundation, and everything that comes next builds on this single understanding. Once you understand this, you start seeing a pattern that explains almost every confusing interaction you've ever had with a woman. Women do not disengage when they feel unsafe. They disengage when they feel emotionally resolved. Resolution ends movement, and movement is where attraction lives. Most men think clarity builds connection. It doesn't. Clarity builds comfort, and comfort without polarity becomes emotional flatline. This is the hidden weakness most women never articulate. They crave emotional safety, but they are deeply affected by emotional uncertainty. Not uncertainty about your intentions, uncertainty about who you are internally. A man who is fully predictable emotionally gives her nothing to explore, and when there is nothing to explore, her attention drifts. Another truth most men never notice is how quickly women lose interest once they feel emotionally ahead. If she feels she understands you completely, if she feels she knows how you'll react, if she feels your emotional state depends on her response, attraction fades. Not because she wants to leave, but because the dynamic has lost tension. This is why women often pull away right after things feel perfect. Perfect feels finished. Finished feels dead. Another layer of this weakness is how women respond to emotional stillness. Most men try to lead interactions with energy. They talk more, they move faster, they fill silence. Stillness is more powerful. Stillness creates space, and space forces the mind to engage. A woman's imagination is far more powerful than any words you can say. The men who hold her attention are not stimulating her constantly. They are giving her room to feel. Another thing men rarely understand is that women are not addicted to attention. They are addicted to emotional depth. Depth requires layers. Layers require time. Time requires patience. Most men rush because they fear losing her, but rushing is exactly what causes loss. Another hidden layer is how women experience emotional authority. Not authority over them, authority over self. A man who can sit in uncertainty without anxiety demonstrates authority over his internal world. That authority creates trust. Trust creates attraction. This is why women often describe attraction as feeling safe and exciting at the same time. Safety without excitement is friendship. Excitement without safety is chaos. The hidden weakness sits right between these two. Another thing that activates this weakness is how a man responds to emotional tests. Tests are not conscious games, they are subconscious checks. What happens if I pull back? What happens if I delay? What happens if I change tone? Most men fail by reacting emotionally. They explain, they reassure, they chase balance. The man who triggers attraction passes by staying emotionally still. He does not punish, he does not pursue, he simply continues being himself. That consistency creates tension because she cannot move him emotionally, and what cannot be moved becomes fascinating. Another deep truth is that women are deeply affected by men who are comfortable being misunderstood. Most men desperately want to be understood. They clarify constantly. Clarification removes mystery. Mystery feeds imagination. The man who allows partial misunderstanding remains interesting, not because he hides, but because he does not need approval. Another layer of this weakness is how women respond to emotional scarcity. Not scarcity of availability, scarcity of emotional access. When a man reveals everything, there is no journey. When he reveals slowly, each interaction feels meaningful. Meaning fuels attachment. Another uncomfortable truth is that women feel strongest attraction toward men who are not needed to secure them emotionally. Security is not built through reassurance, it's built through consistency over time. A man who tries to secure connection quickly signals fear. Fear collapses polarity. Another aspect of this weakness is how women respond to men who enjoy attention but do not depend on it. Dependency feels heavy. Enjoyment feels light. Lightness invites desire. This is why women often return to men who didn't chase when they pulled away. Not because those men were playing games, but because they didn't add emotional weight. The hidden weakness is not emotional fragility. It is emotional curiosity. Curiosity needs space. Space needs restraint. Restraint requires self-control, and self-control is rare. Most men give everything away emotionally. The men who hold back, not out of fear, but out of self-respect, create tension without effort. That tension keeps her engaged long after the interaction ends. This is why attraction often feels unfair, because it does not reward effort. It rewards emotional discipline. And once you understand this, you stop trying to close emotional loops. You stop trying to resolve everything. You allow feelings to breathe. And when feelings breathe, they grow. This is where the hidden weakness becomes obvious. Women are drawn to men who let emotional tension live, not because they are cruel, but because they are calm enough to hold it. And that calm strength is rare. And rarity is what makes attraction last. At this stage, it becomes clear why most men never see this weakness. Because it doesn't show up when things are going badly. It shows up when things are going well. When there's chemistry, when there's connection, when emotions are warming up, that's when men sabotage everything. They mistake momentum for permission. Permission to open up fully, permission to explain themselves, permission to secure the bond. And the moment they do, the dynamic flips. The woman feels emotionally ahead, and emotional advantage quietly kills desire. Another truth men don't like hearing is this: women do not feel attracted to men who emotionally arrive too early. Arrival ends pursuit. Pursuit keeps attention alive. This doesn't mean playing hard to get. It means not handing over your emotional depth before it's earned. Depth given too early feels cheap. Depth revealed over time feels valuable. Another layer of this weakness is how women respond to emotional certainty about you versus emotional certainty with you. Certainty with you feels safe. Certainty about you feels finished. Most men confuse the two. They reveal their whole inner world. They make intentions obvious. They remove all ambiguity. And once she feels she knows you completely, her nervous system relaxes too much. Relaxation without tension turns into disinterest. Another uncomfortable truth is this: women are deeply affected by men who are comfortable not being the emotional solution. Most men try to be the answer, the fixer, the safe place, the emotional anchor. But when you become the solution, the story ends. Attraction lives in ongoing emotional narrative. The man who keeps the narrative open stays interesting. Another aspect of this weakness is how women respond to emotional leadership. Not leadership through direction, leadership through pace. The man who sets the emotional pace instead of following it creates gravity. He doesn't rush when emotions rise. He doesn't panic when emotions stall. He stays steady. That steadiness creates respect. Respect feeds attraction. Another truth most men overlook is how women experience emotional saturation. Too much attention, too much reassurance, too much availability. These things feel suffocating over time. Not because the man is bad, but because the emotional environment becomes dense. The hidden weakness is that women need emotional air. Air allows movement. Movement sustains desire. The men who give emotional air without pulling away feel powerful. Another deep layer is how women respond to emotional unpredictability that is stable at the core. Most men are unpredictable because they're unstable. That feels unsafe. The men who trigger attraction are predictable in values, but unpredictable in emotional availability. You don't know when you fully have them. That uncertainty keeps attention engaged. Another uncomfortable truth is this: women often feel strongest attraction toward men who do not emotionally chase, even when attraction is mutual, because chasing collapses polarity. Polarity needs two grounded centers, not one chasing the other. Another layer of this weakness is how women react to emotional maturity. Emotional maturity is not constant communication. It's knowing when not to communicate. Silence used naturally feels grounded. Silence used strategically feels manipulative. Women feel the difference immediately. The men who activate this weakness are not withholding, they are simply not emotionally spilling. Another thing most men never notice is how women respond to men who are okay with being emotionally misunderstood for a while. Misunderstanding creates curiosity. Curiosity leads to engagement. Most men rush to clear misunderstandings. They don't let curiosity do its work. Another deep truth is that women feel more attraction toward men who allow emotions to unfold naturally than toward men who guide them. Guidance feels controlling. Allowance feels safe. The hidden weakness is not emotional insecurity, it's emotional curiosity that needs room. Another layer of this is how women respond to emotional confidence without explanation. A man who explains his confidence weakens it. A man who lives it strengthens it. This is why trying to show confidence never works. Confidence that does not ask to be seen is felt. Another uncomfortable truth is this: women often lose attraction not because a man lacks depth, but because he gives all of it away immediately. Depth is not impressive when it's free. It's compelling when it's revealed. Another part of this weakness is how women respond to men who do not emotionally rush intimacy. Rushing intimacy feels like emotional hunger. Hunger creates pressure. Pressure creates resistance. The man who is comfortable letting intimacy grow slowly feels rare, and rarity sustains attraction. Another thing men resist accepting is that attraction does not grow in emotional certainty. It grows in emotional possibility. Possibility requires restraint. Restraint requires self-trust. Most men don't trust themselves enough to let things breathe, so they rush. and rushing closes the door. This is why women often say things like, "I don't know why, I just lost feelings." Nothing dramatic happened, the tension simply disappeared. And once tension is gone, desire fades quietly. The men who hold tension without force keep desire alive, not by manipulating, but by not collapsing emotionally into the connection. This is where the hidden weakness becomes undeniable. Women are drawn to men who are comfortable standing in emotional ambiguity, not because it's confusing, but because it keeps the experience alive. Alive emotions move. Dead emotions don't. And attraction is movement. When you understand this, you stop trying to lock things in. You stop trying to define. You stop trying to arrive. You stay present. And presence without urgency is the rarest signal of all. That is what keeps her emotionally engaged. Not words, not actions, but the space you leave open inside the connection. At this point, you can see why this weakness is rarely talked about. Because it doesn't flatter anyone. It doesn't flatter men because it shows how often effort works against them. And it doesn't flatter women because it reveals how deeply attraction is tied to emotional dynamics rather than conscious choice. Another layer of this weakness is how women respond to emotional closure. Closure feels relieving in the short term, but relief is the enemy of desire. When emotions are fully resolved, the nervous system relaxes completely, and relaxed curiosity disappears. Most men rush to give closure. They define the connection, they clarify intentions, they reassure feelings. They think they're doing the right thing, but what they're really doing is removing the emotional friction that keeps attraction alive. Another uncomfortable truth is this: women are more affected by how a man handles what is unsaid than what is said. Silences, pauses, moments not filled. These moments create internal dialogue, and internal dialogue is where attraction deepens. Most men are afraid of these moments. They feel awkward, so they fill them. And by filling them, they remove the very thing that keeps her mind engaged. Another aspect of this weakness is how women respond to emotional pacing over time. Attraction is not built in peaks, it's built in controlled waves. Too much intensity too early feels overwhelming. Too little feels dull. The men who sustain attraction understand pacing intuitively. They don't flood her emotionally. They don't starve her either. They let feelings rise and settle naturally. This natural rhythm keeps the nervous system engaged without overload. Another layer most men miss is how women respond to men who do not emotionally collapse under vulnerability. When a woman opens up emotionally, most men either rush to fix or rush to bond. Both responses collapse tension. The man who triggers deeper attraction listens without urgency. He doesn't absorb her emotions. He doesn't take responsibility for them. He allows her to feel without steering the outcome. This creates a powerful imbalance. She feels seen without feeling in control. And that imbalance fuels desire. Another truth men rarely accept is this: women do not feel attraction toward men who center their emotional world around her. Centering feels flattering at first, but over time it feels heavy. Heavy emotions create distance. The hidden weakness is that women want to feel chosen, not depended on. There is a difference. Feeling chosen feels empowering. Depended on feels burdensome. Another layer of this weakness is how women respond to emotional self-sufficiency. A man who enjoys his life regardless of her presence creates contrast. Contrast creates polarity. Polarity sustains attraction. Most men give up their center too quickly. They reorganize their priorities. They adjust their emotional baseline. They collapse into the connection. And once collapsed, attraction has nowhere to stand. Another uncomfortable truth is how women respond to emotional certainty about the future, planning too far ahead, locking in outcomes, assuming continuity. These things feel secure, but they flatten desire. Attraction needs a sense of unfolding, a story still being written. The man who allows the story to unfold naturally keeps her engaged. Another layer is how women react to men who are comfortable being temporarily incomplete. Not incomplete as Keeple, incomplete in narrative. Not everything has to be resolved now. Not every feeling needs a label. Not every connection needs a name. This tolerance for incompleteness is rare, and rarity creates pull. Another truth is that women are deeply affected by men who don't emotionally negotiate. They don't bargain for affection. They don't argue for attention. They don't plead for reassurance. They remain steady. And steadiness under uncertainty feels powerful. Another aspect of this weakness is how women respond to emotional patience. Patience is not waiting. Patience is being okay without resolution. Most men wait anxiously. Anxiety leaks. The man who holds patience calmly feels grounded. Grounded men feel safe. Safe men with tension feel irresistible. Another thing men misunderstand is that attraction does not grow through accumulation. It grows through contrast and space. Space allows reflection. Reflection deepens feeling. Without space, emotion has no time to form roots. This is why women often feel stronger attraction after distance, not during constant contact. Not because distance is a trick, but because space lets emotion breathe. Another uncomfortable truth is that women are not afraid of losing men who are emotionally secure. They are afraid of being emotionally consumed. The man who does not consume her emotionally becomes someone she wants to return to. Another deep layer of this weakness is how women respond to men who don't collapse under silence. Silence makes most men anxious. Anxiety drives behavior. Behavior driven by anxiety kills attraction. The man who is comfortable in silence creates intrigue. Intrigue fuels imagination, and imagination sustains desire. This is why attraction often intensifies when nothing dramatic happens. No big gestures, no emotional speeches, no forced intimacy, just calm presence and unresolved emotional space. The hidden weakness is not vulnerability. It is the inability to ignore emotional gravity. Gravity pulls attention toward what feels unfinished. Men who close everything remove gravity. Men who leave space create it. And that gravity keeps her emotionally engaged far longer than effort ever could. This is where the dynamic truly shifts, because once you stop trying to resolve everything, you stop chasing attraction. You allow it to move on its own. And when attraction moves on its own, it moves toward what feels grounded, calm, and emotionally unclaimed. That is the state most men never reach. But once you do, everything about how women respond to you begins to change. At the deepest level, this is why this weakness feels so powerful once you understand it. Because it reveals that attraction is not created through persuasion, it is created through emotional gravity. Gravity does not push, it pulls, and it only exists when something is unresolved, grounded, and stable. Most men try to push attraction forward. They push clarity, they push reassurance, they push commitment, they push effort, and every push removes gravity. The men who hold attraction do the opposite. They don't rush to resolve emotional tension. They don't try to own the connection. They don't try to secure outcomes. They remain present without collapsing into certainty. This is the hidden weakness no woman openly admits. Not weakness in character, not weakness in intelligence, but vulnerability to calm emotional ambiguity. Ambiguity without chaos, ambiguity without fear, ambiguity held by a man who is emotionally sovereign. That combination keeps her mind engaged long after the interaction ends. This is why women often think about men who didn't do much, not because those men were special, but because they didn't interfere. They didn't remove mystery. They didn't collapse polarity. They didn't resolve the feeling too soon. They let emotion remain alive. Another truth most men never realize is this. Once you remove pressure, attraction does not need maintenance. It sustains itself. Because the emotional environment is clean. No anxiety, no obligation, no emotional labor, just presence and possibility. This is why trying to lock in attraction always backfires. Locking in removes possibility, and possibility is what desire feeds on. Another uncomfortable truth is that this weakness cannot be exploited long-term. If you try to manufacture ambiguity, it feels manipulative. Women sense inauthentic restraint instantly. This only works when it comes from genuine emotional independence, when you truly do not need outcomes, when your life feels full without validation, when your sense of worth is internal. That authenticity is felt at a nervous system level. And that is why this dynamic feels so strong. Because it is not psychological trickery, it is emotional alignment. Once you reach this state, something important happens. You stop asking how to make women interested. You stop worrying about responses. You stop trying to control dynamics. You simply show up grounded. And grounded men change the emotional temperature of any room they enter. This is why attraction feels instant around them, not because they are impressive, but because they are undisturbed. Undisturbed by uncertainty, undisturbed by silence, undisturbed by outcome. That calm becomes contagious, and people move toward it instinctively. Now, if this video helped you understand the hidden emotional dynamic that keeps women engaged, there is one video you should watch next. In this video, we explored how emotional ambiguity and self-regulation create gravity. But there is another layer that shows how that same internal state flips attraction on instantly, without effort or words. That's exactly what I break down in my video called Trigger a Woman's Attraction Instantly, the Dark Switch. That video explains the internal switch that turns desire on when pressure disappears, and how emotional independence creates attraction without trying. Watch that next, because when you understand both gravity and the switch, attraction stops feeling unpredictable. It becomes a natural response to who you are. And when that happens, you no longer chase connection. Connection moves toward you. Quietly, naturally, without resistance. That is the real power most men never discover.